Welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you, Ms. Kandra Clark, who's a strategic partnership specialist and senior grant writer. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. Like I said, I have someone very, very special tonight, Ms. Kandra Clark. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here because you actually focus on something that's an interesting topic. It's grants, and we've all heard about grants and a couple of things because a lot of people actually think, okay, how do I get those? We've all heard about grants, whether through school or through not-for-profit programs. So tonight you're actually going to break down those walls, go through the myths, and actually hopefully everybody at home can take advantage of, if they're interested, how they can get involved as well. But before we dive into it, Kandra, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I actually grew up in a really small town in Illinois of about 1,000 people.
Wow, that's tiny.
Very tiny. And actually I grew up in a household that experienced the intersectionality between domestic violence, substance use, mental health, untreated trauma, and just lack of opportunities and support. And so that kind of sped me on a trajectory. I started doing drugs and alcohol at a very early age. I became involved with the criminal justice system at a very early age. And it kind of ended up spending about 10 years of my life cycling in and out of treatment facilities, incarceration, jails, and prisons, both in Illinois and then also in New York. And so when I came home from prison, my last conviction was in 2010, and I do have an extensive criminal background, but when I came home from prison, I reached out to every nonprofit organization that was, in New York City, and we're very thankful and lucky in New York City that we have so many opportunities for programs and services through nonprofit organizations, because in Illinois, there really isn't that many. And so I met with the Fortune Society actually at a job fair. It was about 2 months after coming home from prison, and they gave me a temporary cold calling position in their employment services unit. And I worked, 2 months later, I got hired permanently, and I worked as an account manager, a job developer, getting people who are formerly incarcerated employment positions for about 8 months. And then as I was in the midst of getting people these jobs, I noticed that our younger folks, specifically, we have an alternative to incarceration program at Fortune, and specifically they would struggle with gaining employment because they still had an open case that they were, fighting, and they were going to court for, and they were getting services at our organization. So that spurred me to move into the ATI unit, and I worked in that unit for 3 years. I did court report writing, so I drafted all the progress reports that we submitted to the judges on how our ATIs were participating in the program, and also did a little bit of counseling, did some group facilitation, and I ended up helping out the development unit who was writing grants. They would come to me for information about the program to write in their grants. And so that's when the senior director at the time of the development unit, she asked me, she said, hey, do you want to learn how to write grants? And luckily I got this opportunity because unfortunately a lot of people don't get these kind of opportunities where you don't really have that skill set coming into it. I started going to school when I came home from prison also, and I got my associates, and I was getting my bachelor's. I was getting ready to graduate. So I did have a little bit of education under my belt, coming into this position. But I didn't have the skill set that they were really looking for in a grant writer. And that was about 3 years ago. In October, it'll be exactly 3 years. And I've gotten 5 promotions since then working within that unit to now become the strategic partnership liaison and senior grant writer. I have a team of 3 other grant writers that I manage. And I get to do a lot of public speaking around the intersectionality between
Yes.
all these issues, that the root causes that lead to incarceration, and then also get to do the fundraising and development aspect of it. And I think bridging those two together has made me more successful in that, because I can see it. I have the lived experience also coming into this, so that helps as well.
Absolutely. And do most people who work at your location have some criminal background, or they have regular people who are removed but still able to help as well?
Absolutely. So the Fortune Society is really unique. The Fortune Society, we've been around for 51 years. Go to fortunesociety.org if you'd like to learn about us. Our website is phenomenal. And, you know, our mission is to support successful reentry, thus promoting the safety of communities, right? And we serve about over 7,000 individuals each year, and we have a staff of about 300, and over 50% are formerly incarcerated on our
that's
staff.
good.
And then there's also some staff that have lived experience in other ways where their parents were incarcerated, or, you know, they've been impacted by the detention system, or, you know, the foster care system, or just the systems, the governmental systems that often, you know, create issues for people in reality and don't really respond to their exact needs. So we are very blessed at Fortune that we get to do that, and I really infuse that in all of our work. I was just speaking with you before we were on air about Just Leadership USA, which is another program that I'm really dedicated to. I just graduated their Leading with Conviction leadership development program. It was a year-long program. It was really intense, and it really learned the breakthrough leadership actions of taking responsibility, self-reflecting, so getting a lot of feedback from people so you can continuously improve yourself, and then collective leadership. So that goes kind of two ways. I look at collective leadership as aligning our messages and missions to get at that final vision and that final cause that we see, to really get to where we're trying to go, regardless of maybe the differences that the organizations or people have, and then also building out the leadership of others, investing in others, so then they can also come behind us and you know, make their own change in this world and help us, you know, move this mission forward and this vision. And so with Just Leadership, I also work on the Close Rikers campaign, which
So you're definitely
again,
for that.
Yes, I am all for closing Rikers, closing Rosies. You know, at this weekend at Just Leadership, we talked about radical love and healing communities. One of my cohort members, she did this amazing speech on radical love, and she really broke it down, and she brought it back to thinking about slavery, right? So when we talked about slavery, back in that time, we weren't saying, oh, we need to reform it. Oh, we need to, you know, choose days that we're going to get beat and days that we're not going to get beat, and then that makes it a little bit better. No, we talked about ending slavery because we knew the core of slavery was inhumane, it was wrong, and we needed to end it. When they made the 13th Amendment, what they did was really create a new form of slavery, and that's incarceration. And it's the same thing that we're doing to our family members, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our friends, our coworkers. We're caging them up, locking them up. I mean, the criminal justice system, I could give you statistics for days on the trauma that you experience.
Yes.
Through incarceration, that incarcerating people, putting them in solitary confinement, detaining them before they're proven guilty. We have a huge problem with cash bail in this country.
Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. So Kandra, you were talking about right before the break about how the statistical level for those who are incarcerated is through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so I think if we re-envision and reimagine a different world, and a different justice system, right? An actual true justice system. We wouldn't be incarcerating people that have mental illness where that was their primary reason for committing a crime, where they have substance use issues and they need help for that, where they've been living through intergenerational poverty and they don't have the educational opportunities or the employment opportunities. And then I think also through incarceration, and specifically also through detainment before being convicted, all we're doing is further, creating psychological trauma and hurting people economically as well. Incarceration, when you come home from incarceration, you can't get housing, you can't get a job, you can't get back into school depending on what your crime was, or depending on how much restitution you have and court fines you have. You can't even get ahead anymore. So then you're kind of left in that same cycle of, I still have a family, I still want to be a community member, I still want to get a job, I still need money to feed myself. So what am I supposed to do? And so I think that's where Fortune Society comes in, and other organizations like Fortune. College and Community Fellowship is another organization that I'm an alumna of, and they assist women getting college degrees after coming home. And if it wasn't for their assistance, I'm a first generation college graduate in my family, and I had no idea how to even start the process of going to college, because nobody in my family has ever been shown that either. So if it wasn't through these different programs and having the opportunities that I've had, I wish that we could give everybody who has criminal justice involvement these same opportunities. I really challenge everybody, if people who have businesses, talk to them about hiring people who are formerly incarcerated. We're some of the best workers that you'll ever find. We're dedicated, we're happy to work, we really want to work, we're passionate about it. And the same thing goes with housing. If you know landlords, it's really, really hard to find housing out here with a criminal background. So if you have friends or family that are landlords, I really challenge you to have open and honest conversations with them, because we're really just reharming our communities by not allowing
shutting them out.
Exactly, by shutting
I
them
know,
out.
and it's something to actually think about, because I think it's just one of those things where you actually just have to sometimes just talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm out and about a lot, and sometimes you might see somebody in a disadvantaged situation, and you start to wonder, I wonder what led to that point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But there's always, it's a snowball effect. It's just a series of events. If you're willing, why don't you share with us about your most recent time re-entering back into society, and really some of the pitfalls that you experienced before you even got to where you are today, and looking back at that, like, how is it really to re-enter and try to get yourself back together?
Absolutely. And I will also acknowledge the fact that I am white, and so that has also, I think, made it easier as well to re-enter back into society. I think particularly Black and brown men have an even more difficult time.
And I appreciate you acknowledging
that,
absolutely. Because I was going to touch upon that, not to play the race card, but I think there is, Black or white, everybody could see the disparity that exists.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think we all as a society acknowledge that, that there is a problem.
Absolutely.
And just, I'm already at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
Being a certain skin tone.
Absolutely. And so and I always say that while incarceration is systematic and it impacts everybody, and I want to include everybody in those conversations, us as white people need to acknowledge those disparities.
And that's great that you can acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
And not pretend that it doesn't exist, because it does exist.
Absolutely. Just walking down the street, I'm more likely for the police not to, stop me, as opposed to, especially a young person of color, especially a young male person of color specifically. I mean, they can't walk anywhere without being
can't wear a hoodie.
harassed. Exactly. Exactly. And what was the
so just re-entering back in that first, like you mentioned, it's hard to get a job, it's hard to get housing, and you're coming back in. Of course, some people want to know what you did and what you were in there for, and there's certain things. It could be a little bit difficult.
So I think first and foremost with that, I worked when I was at Beacon Correctional Facility. I had my GED, and having a GED was enough education to take a legal research course. After I took this legal